Hello everyone, welcome to Veranda IAS and welcome to the session where we are doing the analysis of the questions that have been asked in the previous years. Now students, in the previous sessions that we have taken, I focused upon the questions that have been asked in the preliminary examination. In this video, we will be discussing, we'll be talking about, or moreover, we'll be actually seeing what kind of questions that we have actually seen in past few years with reference to history subject in the mains examination. So let's start the session. Now, again, like I said, the questions that are asked in GS paper 1 almost 50%, because if you divide GS paper 1, so the subjects that you will see will be history along with geography, and other than geography you will have Indian society. Now almost 50% of the questions in the GS paper 1 will be coming from the segment of history, art and culture. We have already discussed what should be the right idea, what should be the right approach, how you actually have to go for an answer, how you have to actually make sure that the answer that you have actually given, the answer that you have actually written, how it is actually going to increase your chances in order to score the maximum marks in that particular question. Now, here are some of the important questions about which we will be just taking a gist upon. The rock cut architecture represents one of the most important sources of our knowledge of Indian art and history. Discuss, answer in 150 words, and in the question is for 10 marks. See, you have a limitation here. The limitation is of 150 words. In 150 words, you have to mention this entire thing. Now, whenever I speak about the rock cut architecture, okay, rock cut architecture, all the important information with reference to the rock cut architecture, most prominent thing that we can say that we can actually access would be the idea of Ajanta caves, Ellora caves, Bhimbedka, Mahabalipuram. Now see, if you are giving answer to this question, there is an important need that we have to mention all these caves. Now if you are looking at the Ajanta, Ellora, Bhimbedka, we are getting an idea about what was the history back then. The question says sources of our knowledge of early Indian art and history. The paintings that I'm talking about, the paintings which are present in the Ajanta and Ellora. Now all these paintings, they actually mention how glorious, how rich the culture, how rich the heritage, the tradition we actually had in our country at that point of time. The idea here is actually to mention the sources and one significant point from each. For example, if I'm saying Ajanta, so mention a point about Ajanta caves that actually focuses on providing sufficient amount of information or providing sufficient amount of insight towards Indian art and history. Similarly, take an example for Ellora, take an example for Bhimbedka, take an example from Mahabalipuram, and there are various other caves, okay? There is various other rock cut architecture from which the situation or from which the richness of Indian art architecture can be understood. This would be the right way to approach, this would be the right way to answer this particular question, okay? Next, the Pala period is the most significant phase in the history of Buddhism in India. Enumerate. Now, again, it is a question That is to be answered in 150 words and is of 10 marks. Now, here we are not talking about the entire Buddhism, but we are talking about the specification of one particular period, which is in Indian history known as the Pala period. Now, the advancements or the events that actually took place with reference to Buddhism during the Pala period, they are required to be mentioned here. Why? Because it is actually directly, you don't have to provide any information on Buddhism here. The question directly mentions the idea of Pala period with reference to Buddhism in India. So when I am saying that Pala period is the most significant phase in the history of Buddhism, so technically I am actually asking you to answer about the events that actually helped, or you can say that actually during the Pala period, those events that made significant changes or significant improvement in Buddhism with reference to India. Okay, this has to be the right approach in this particular question. Next one, evaluate the policies of Lord Curzon and their long-term implications on the national movement. Answer in 150 words, again 10 marks. See, policies of Lord Curzon. Now we all know Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon, there were various policies, okay? Lord Curzon came up with, okay, most important, most prominent. The partition of Bengal that took place. There were various other acts, seditious acts, there were various other activities. Also, the idea of Lord Curzon towards Indian, especially towards the Congress, it was really very humiliating. So when we are mentioning this particular idea of Lord Curzon, so first of all, we have to come up with some of the initiatives, some of the policies that he came up with. Number one was the partition of Bengal. Then there were various acts with reference to sedition, also with reference to printing and all. There were various ideas. Now, what was the impact? The most important impact that the policies of Lord Curzon had, that the Indian movement for independence, it actually became like a wildfire when the partition was announced, and when the partition took place, it actually became a very problematic situation for the Britishers to control the sequence or the series of events that were actually taking place. People were engaged in Swadeshi, people were engaged in the boycott movements. It actually united the country. It actually gave the country a hope that yes, even the Britishers can be definitely put on back foot. These ideas that were followed, it actually united. Later on, the idea of Swadeshi, the idea of boycott, it was supported by everyone, be it Congress, be it Mahatma Gandhi, everyone came up with these ideas. Okay. Also, the opinion Lord Curzon had about Congress, it wasn't a very good one. So it actually showed, or it actually presented the image what Indians actually had in front of Lord Curzon, or primarily Congress had in front of Lord Curzon. The moderates who were of this opinion that yes, we have to believe in plead, we have to go to the British authorities and we have to actually convince them for their problems. The policies by Lord Curzon was actually a slap on the face that you do whatever you want to do, but we have our own opinion, we have our own agenda, and we will not move other than that particular path. The congressmen who initially believed that if we try to convince the Britishers, they can definitely help us. But no, with people like Lord Curzon and their opinions and their policies, it was very clear that the way out must be different. It has to be absolutely entirely different. Okay. So this is how you can actually answer this particular question. See, what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to convince here is reading, the content must be known to you in a proper manner. Once you have a complete information about the content, I can bet this that the answer that you will be framing would be of top-notch quality. It would be of the best quality. Okay. So, students, this was with today's session. I hope you liked it. Thank you very much.